Hello, I'm Con Griffin, and I've done a Guinness World Record with 256-pound weights, which I'd like to talk about right now. But I must go back first. Before I left, I was in London for 30 years. I came in to London in 1960 and I came out in 1990. But this was about the last 10 years I was in there. This picture here I want to talk about. Now, I'm dressed in a Cossack suit here, as you can see. And this is a young lad here, they're all stuntmen. And this man here, Scannell, and he's done a great job. And this is John McGrath. He was a man that I just happened to meet up. I was about in the 1980, 81. And this man got married very old. Like he was a stuntman, and he was a high diver, and he died. I broke his neck about 10 years previous to this. But he was about 50 in that picture, and he was on a wheelchair. But he used to organise shows, and he had exotic dancers that danced in the West End, and there was a young girl that he married at that time, decided to get married. And then he invited me to the wedding. But their wedding was going to be showbiz wedding. Everybody were going to be something in the movies. That's the kind of wedding, reception that they had. And they had it on a boat, a cruise down the Thames. And I got the job of bringing a plate of prawns, and brought these prawns anyway, got down the embankment. I knew I had the instructions of how to get there. And I brought in the prawns and placed them on they had a big buffet, and they had the best of champagne, and they had caviar on little biscuits, and they had smoked salmon on a tray, and you could help yourself to whatever. So when I arrived on the boat, anyway, they thanked me for bringing the prawns and all that, and a few people, and then they said to sample this, and they gave me a glass of champagne. Champagne was very dry, and I knew that I could drink it, but it would be almost like torture, forcing it on myself. And then I went around, I picked up a few bits and pieces that were there. There was caviar on a biscuit, and just for experimenting sake, I just thought to myself, I'll sample this, and I took away the little biscuit with caviar on it. It looked like blackberries, really, like you'd be picking blackberries here in Ireland, and it looked like that. It was squashed blackberries on top of the thing, and it didn't taste very nice either. And then I had some smoked salmon. Well, I appreciated that because I still like fish, and I always did. But I thought all the best things in life would be wasted on me, because I just, they would be wasted because I didn't fancy champagne of the best, and I definitely didn't enjoy caviar. So I thought a lot of this, of the big shots in London, isn't all up to that. But anyway, the guests were more interested in the food. There was a lot of people from East Enders, and they were like movie stars, the kind of actors from there. And then there was more, better actors, you could say, from the West End. They were on plays that were running at that time. And there were various different types of dancers. But the people that I got involved with there was the Black Sea Cossacks. They came into London in 1958, and they danced at the Royal Albert Hall. They were great showmen, put on a good show at the Royal Albert Hall. But when they had finished their show, they defected to London. But that was in 58. And but to some years later, as you can imagine this, so they'd all kind of mingled into the life in London, and some of them were getting a little bit old for dancing, and there was a guy that was starting to get into the building trade. So with John McGrath, he was kind of an organiser of shows, and he was also, he knew everybody in show business, but he was organising different shows. So he introduced me to this guy who was the head of the troupe, if you like to call him, the Cossack troupe, and the Black Sea Cossacks was the name they go by. And he was telling me shortly after I spoke to him that their strongman was getting too old to do some of the tricks that they'd done in the show. Usually the Cossack show was two big Clydesdales horses, and they'd have one in each arm like that, and they'd put a rope through here, of course, but it's more of a circus act and than in a strongman act, but you still have to be strong to control, two big horses. You could get taken this way or that way. You'd be just kind of holding the balance of power because you're a link in a chain. So at the end of the night, anyway, I was an established strongman that time. I was going to do my own shows in London, and I was quite, well able to get the crowd going, and I was lifting a keg over my head, like a full keg, and I pressed it about 5 or 6 times, maybe sometimes 10 times. Then I had 2 56-pound weights, these weights that I'm still using, they're here in the gym now. But I was pressing them as well. So he said, would I consider going with them, for a show? They had a show coming up, and they were after securing a spot on the Royal Variety Show, which was to be held in White City. So I got my brother Chris, who was with me, a plasterer, the same as myself, but I taught him plastering. I made a plaster of him, but he was enthusiast on old motorbikes, and at that time he had a 350 matchless. Yeah, it was a matchless, and they'd asked would I substitute the two horses for a 350 motorbike. So the show came up anyway, and I made my way dressed in a Cossack suit, because they gave me one of their Cossack suits, which is that one there. You can see it looks quite. The only thing I have now left of it is the belt. I have that. I'm afraid it won't go around my waist now, but it did then, as you can see. And we got on with doing the show anyway. This man here, Scandal is his name, he climbed up a 70-foot ladder, and down at the bottom of the 70-foot ladder was these bags that you have for stuntmen to fall in the movies, that they are filled, pumped up, and they'll take a fall. But there was only about 8 foot all around, a kind of a little pad, and there was spears all around that stuck the spears into around that. There was these, just to make it, well, it was kind of fairly spectacular. And when he got to the top of the ladder, he blindfolded himself. He put the blindfold on, and he done a half circle like that through the air, and bang, right on his back in the middle of the tar pit, the breakfall bags. But that looked spectacular and fantastic, people gave the great applause. And this young lad here, he was only a boy, but he, at that time we were 1981, and the roller skating was very popular. And what he done was the Evel Knievel, everybody knew Evel Knievel because he wasn't long, he wasn't there at that time, but he was, well in people's minds. So his stunt was, he put down 12 people lying flat on the floor. This was all done inside in the middle of the grass in the park. That's why they took that part of the Cossack dancers and not, what they usually do. But he jumped over this ramp and cleared all 12, and that was his stunt. Another little trick he done was he roller skated through a wall of fire, as I say. You can see it here, the wall of fire. And then it was my turn to do my show. So we got Martin Dooley was the name of a friend of my brother Chris, and he was a bit of a blackguard, but he had this. He was supposed to be my assistant, but if you don't work with people who are show people, and you could make a very bad assistant. But when he started up the bike anyway, and he started to pull away, he was using his 2 legs to push the bike forward as well. But luckily for me, he was only 10 stone weight, so I was able to pull him, legs and all, and his engine and all, back along the track. And when I finished, because it did look a bit of a struggle and reality, because he tried to get away, and I got a huge round of applause for that. And the show went good, just that I was finished, and one of the people that were running the show came to me and he said, "The Duke of Edinburgh," he said, "is in the viewing stand," because it was the royal variety show, so you had to have royalty there. Sometimes it would be the Queen. At that time it even could have been the Queen Mother, which was an elderly, very old woman. She would be still around at that time. But it wasn't, it was the Duke himself, and I had seen him before by accident. Well, it was an accident. It was a topping out party at a building site. That's what it was. It was a row of houses that were built, and I'd met him. That was about 10 years previous to that. But not that he'd remember me. I definitely would have remembered him. But he was quite young the first time I seen him. He had blonde hair. And at this stage now he was just getting a little bit crabbed. He might have been in his 50s. He's over 100 now. But he congratulated me anyway on a good show. It was for all this was for charity, you see. So and the right variety. You had to be Simon Cowell now to get into it. That was it. But I never seen Britain's Got Talent, and I had plenty talent, but I couldn't sing if I got billions, or I couldn't dance either. But anyway, I came back here to Ireland then. It was in that's the fourth. It was just 1990, and that was the time when I think it was the next year. The Cork got into the finals of a match. I'm there. They put me in here. I'm upside down. There I am. And there's a young lad here from the village. He's Rook. He would be about 30 years of age now if I knew where in the world he is today. But as we all know now, Cork won the double that year, and they threw a Tipperary man in there, which is myself, just to give a little bit of publicity, and the press needed somebody. And a little while later, my grandson was here at the school, and his teacher asked him to do a story on, told all the class, do a story on local heroes. So my granddad, my son Connor wrote about his granddad. He said he was a Guinness World Record holder or going for it, and they won the prize anyway. So we got to go up to Dublin and meet the Special Olympians. That was the year of the Olympians as well, the Special Olympians. And the following morning, after we just came back, we had another invite to go up to morning television. It was TVM, yeah. And we arrived in Dublin. We were put up. This was all paid for by the television people in the Red Cow in just going into Dublin. So at about 6 o'clock in the morning, we got up and we went to the studio. And Alan Hughes was the man we met. He was out, as he usually is, giving his the weather forecast. And I had my 256s, and I had 170 at that time. But I pumped out about 20 reps of the weights for them, and they appreciated. There was great applause. And when I was listening back to it after that evening, when I got home at night, I think, and I played it back, and I could hear Mac Cagney saying inside, "Cork man again," he said, because I was, right. This is a picture of myself, and that's my grandson here. He's like a little baby, look at him there. And that's she's Jennifer O'Connor, she was there. And now he's a big man, he's 26, and he's a secondary school teacher up in Dublin, up in Dunleary. He's teaching in Dunleary. And that's a little bit of news for there anyway. But outside of that, I just want to talk about the record that I have. Now this was the first one here. It was, a few people challenged me they were from Limerick, and a few others from Cork City. They were from the Mardyke, and these were power lifters and good bodybuilders and power lifters, and they had practiced, of course, so they thought they had a chance. So they asked me, challenged me if you like. But I got a lot of publicity before I went. I had the Clonmel Nationalist. I'd been in the army in Clonmel, and I had said that. And there was a lot of soldiers turned up. And I was also in Collins's barracks in the army. And I was only a kid, but I was in the army in Collins's. And I was an engineer, and I got fed up with the army, and I produced my birth certificate after being qualified as an engineer and qualified as a fully fledged soldier when I headed for London in the Old Innisfannel. I wasn't made for Ireland, I think, and Ireland wasn't made for me. So even though I'm speaking in a very Irish accent, I'm pretty much a Londoner. But when I arrived in Kilbehenny that night, the street was full of people. There was black with people, there was people going everywhere. And it looks like they were all going the same direction, they were going up. So I parked my car where I could, and it wasn't easy, because Kilbehenny is a small town. But this was called the three-county bar. There's one bit of a Tipperary, another Limerick, and some Cork in the one bar. So once I got to the door, they knew who I was because they had it already, it was advertised inside, and DJ and all that type of thing. So I got on the stage first. Like the stage was in the middle of the floor and they were all around it. I could see the different people that were there. I could see the soldiers there that had dumpy level insignias on their uniforms. They wanted to show me that they were one of my group. And there was the Clonmel group had come up. And there was quite a lot of people from Limerick. There was McMahon was a world squat lifter and a power lifter at that time, you know. But the show I went up and I pumped out 10 first, just to show them what was required of them. And then a lot of people started coming, and none of them could even give the weight light. They couldn't even budge the weight. But finally then we had, they were calling on McMahon to come to the stage, but he must have been there because somebody must have known, but the MC was calling, so there was no come along from that part. But eventually, after about 20 different people tried it, and there were big heavy men, some were 25 stone and some were, you know, some were too big in fact to even get up on the stage, but they were trying anyway. But I knew that there wasn't much hope. But then the two guys from the Mardyke, I think they were both from the Mardyke, though definitely they were from Cork City anyway. But one of them managed to do about 10, and they were all fairly good lifts. And they described him as, they said he's got a lift like the lift on the back of a force major, they said. But the next man came then, and he was frankly a little bit taller and looked very strong, and you know, he got down on his back and the weight back like that, and he managed to pump out. It was, I'd say he got 12, I think, but I'd say the Guinness people would have discounted at least 2 of them that were pulled short, you know. So you have to take them full down and full up to get your point. But that was the end of it. Then once them two had done, so I went back to give them my answer. And my answer was 27. So well, that blew them out of the water. That was the end of that. But appreciate it. And and that was 19. It's 1999. And the beauty of that one is it was in the last millennium. So to break my records as they stand, you'd have to get a DeLorean car and you'd have to drive it up to a certain amount of miles an hour, I'm not quite sure what. And you'd have to have a couple of bit of electric sparkles coming out of the back of it, and a bit of magic dust like Santa Claus has to come down the chimney or something like that. But that's the movies. And that's what they tell us, that somebody went back to the future or back to the past. But this is my other one then, that a few years, well, next year really it is, the greatest number of lifts to have from the weights with while straight arms while lying on the back is by Con Griffin, Republic of Ireland, that's my address, and then the date. So that's the new certificate that was served after the millennium. And everybody sees it today, that's what it looks like. But that's what they were like in the last. So even the design of the cert is different. And I was in Dublin when the 50th anniversary of the Guinness Book of Records was. You know, they said it was 2 old gentlemen, the old +4 type of people with the old big moustaches on them, I would imagine, and they would have been arguing about was which was the fastest board, the Golden Pullover or the Swift. So I suppose these old guys, maybe they were influenced or some had plenty of money, but and not much sense, of course, because they would have been drunk at that stage and talking rubbish. But anyway, that's how the book came about. Somebody thought in Guinness, we're going to have to get a book and write down records and keep a proper sort of, I suppose, sort of would have aggro. This was in the Gravity Bar. I was meeting this keeper of records, and I was there like I went up on the train because I wasn't quite sure of driving, getting into the right place and all that type of thing. But up in the Gravity Bar anyway, the only Irishman I met up there was a turkey plucker from Northern Ireland. There was still a bit of a joke and a bit of a song about it, turkey plucking. I think it's Richie Kavanagh singing it. It's popular on YouTube right now. But there was most of the others were Englishmen. There was a man who was balancing a car on his head or something, and that was it. And there was my record, and we had a good night there. The Gravity Bar. Although I wasn't a drinking man, and wasn't a drinking man then even, but I enjoyed that, and that was it. That's lovely. I'm sorry for waffling on so long. Thank you.